Let's take a look at another way we can manage properties that depend on other properties, and that's by using watchers. We're going to go back to our sports store example for this one and look at virtualagent.html, which is in the exercise files in the Chapter 2 Video 3 Start folder, starting at line 114. This virtual agent is going to act like it can answer any question for us, but unfortunately, the only thing it really knows how to do is to fetch and display a list of the products that H+ Sport sells, which will be stored in a data property that we'll add called products, initially just an empty array. Once we have some products in this array, we'll display them with an unordered list with a v4 on the list item element with product in products. And we'll just display the product's name with string interpolation. And you'll see where that name will come from in a moment. We already have a property called question that's two-way bound to the text field here, as well as a response property that's displayed here. So since this virtual agent only knows how to fetch a list of products, what it's going to do is just watch the value of question and look for the word products to appear in it, at which point it will call an API to get the current list of products. To do this, we can add yet another property to our view constructor parameter called watch, which is an object that contains keys that correspond to properties that we would like to watch and respond to changes in. And the values are functions that take the new value as a parameter. So this will allow us to execute custom code every time the value of question changes. And we have the option of using new value if we want to use the latest value of question instead of this.question. So what we'll do is just test new value to see if products is a substring. And if it is, we'll make a call to the API to fetch the product data. There's an open API for H+ Sport, and we can fetch product data at this URL. If we open up the console, under Network and Preview, we can see this JSON data nicely formatted. And for now, we'll just be using the product name here. There are a lot of lightweight libraries we can use to make the AJAX call, and for a while, Vue had an official one called Vue Resource. It still exists, it's just not the official AJAX library anymore. But since jQuery has already been added to this page by the original author, and it's probably familiar to many of you, we can just use that to fetch the data with the getJSON method. And now to simplify this, we'll just assume that this works and the promise is fulfilled with the done method. And all we have to do is set vm.products to data. Be sure to use VM here, which remember is set up here, and I'm going to add a var there because that was missing. Because if I use this, it would now refer to the object that's invoking done, and not the Vue instance itself. Here we'll also set the value of response to sure I can list the products for you. Otherwise, if the question doesn't mention products, we'll set it to sorry, I don't understand that question. And we'll also reset products to an empty array. And let me just fix the typo here. We'll refresh. And you can see that this is a very impatient virtual agent that immediately complains it doesn't understand as soon as you start typing. But once we mention products, it fetches the latest data for us and displays it. You might be wondering, could we use a computed property for products instead of watching the question? And the answer is not if we need to call an API to do it, because this function here has to return a value for products immediately when invoked. So we can't wait for the API response. You might also be wondering why we don't just use an event handler for the change or input event on the text box. That could work fine in this case, but there may be scenarios where you want to watch all possible changes of this value, and not just those that happen through interaction with the text box. For example, if I refresh this, open up the console and type vm.question. The view is now updated, but that wouldn't work if I were only listening for a change event on that input field, even though it would change the value that you see in the box. So you can see that watch is especially useful when we need to run asynchronous tasks in response to a property change, especially if we may not want to tie that change to a specific event. Think of it as a last resort when a computed property or an event handler won't do the trick for some reason.